Hello and welcome back. So for our next video for week 1, I wanted to go over some things I'd like to talk about early in the term because it really sets the stage for the sort of writing we're doing for the rest of the 10 weeks that I'll be with you. And that is argumentation versus persuasion and how those two types of writing differ and how they're similar. Because I think a lot of people, when they hear those terms, if you're making an argument or you're trying to persuade someone of something, we tend to think of those things really synonymously, right? So that they have a lot of similarities, certainly, but there are some key differences that I wanted to talk to you about today. That'll, like I said, mention it'll set the stage for where we're going this term and what sort of writing we're doing. So ultimately, the goal of our class is argumentative writing. But how do those things differ? How does that differ from persuasion? And what can you do to be a good argumentative writer? That's what I want to talk to you about. So the first thing, again, as I mentioned, they're often really synonymous with each other, but there are three main ways that they differ, and it is in the purpose. So why was it written? The tone is how it was written, and then the end result is what happens after someone reads it. So those are the three main ways that they're different, and I'm going to explain those a little bit more in depth with you now. Feel free to pause if you need to read the slides. I am going to go through them fairly quickly, but you can always pause if you want to take notes or look at these later. But essentially, the purpose of an argumentative piece is to inform the audience on the topic and let them know that there are more sides to this issue. It's more complex than they may think it is, and you're using a lot of evidence. And this occurs regardless of whether or not the audience is persuaded or convinced, because that's not necessarily the goal, but we're trying to inform the audience that there are other valid solutions to a problem that already exists in the world. You want the audience to acknowledge you, right? So, okay, even if they're not on your side, they understand that here is why people ascribe to these beliefs or think that this is the better solution of the two options or however many options you have. It tends to be more fact-based and has more appeals to logic. And we are going to do more of a rhetoric review in the coming weeks, but logic and appeal to logos. Whereas persuasion, you want the audience to agree with you on something or disagree with you on, this thing is bad or this thing is good. You want them to agree with you. It doesn't necessarily present facts, but it aims to sway the reader to their side, and it tends to be more emotional. So if we're thinking of rhetoric here, that's usually more of an appeal to pathos. And then we have the tone. So similar to that, the tone for an argumentative piece is authoritative. So you are the authority, you've done the research already. We are trusting you that you're telling us factual information. You are the authority on this topic based on the research you've done. And it tends to be more formal for that reason. Whereas persuasive writing, it tends to lean more on emotion. So like I said, it appeals to pathos typically, rather than just presenting facts. So it can present facts, certainly, but it tends to lean more on emotional appeals also. For that reason, it can often be seen as less formal because if an audience notices, right, we're just leaning on emotion but not factual information, statistics, or sources, that can affect how persuasive you are. And then we have the end result. So what happens at the end after someone's done reading your piece or listening to your speech? For an argument or an argumentative piece, the audience learns of your stance and likely several other issues surrounding this main topic you're researching, and it establishes your position as the best based on evidence. So this is why this is the best or most valid solution based on the research that's already been done or research that you've conducted. Whereas persuasion, the author's position is the one that matters, right? So that's the side people, the persuader wants the audience to go to. This is the one that matters. And it may be the only side that's presented. They might not even present any other solutions or options for you. The ideal end result there is that the audience will agree with you and maybe not dig in too far into what those other options are. But that's why argumentation is so important this term. We're not just trying to persuade, you're trying to formulate a strong argument. So why is your side the better one based on facts and research? And I do want to add, so strong argumentation can be persuasive. So logical information, facts, and your credibility, which is your ethos, that can make you very persuasive without even leaning on emotion. So it's not to say that a persuasion won't occur this term. It might, but it's not necessarily our end goal. As I mentioned, so the focus is argumentation. You're going to be conducting research about an issue this term and taking a side based on potential solutions to a real-world problem. We use problem-based research in this class, and you will learn a lot more about what that means in the coming weeks. But for now, I want to end here with argumentation versus persuasion and just remind you that our goal is to formulate a strong argument, not necessarily persuade, but you're letting your audience know here's why this side is a valid solution to real world problems that exist. And the next thing I want to talk to you about is a little bit more about class, and it's our first writing assignment. So let me pull up that prompt. Okay, so I've said a little bit about the type of research that we're going to be doing this term. It's problem-based, it's argumentative research, but our first writing assignment is an intro to that and lets you know sort of what sort of things should you be looking at this term, how to conduct research, and so on. But our first writing project is called the Rhetorical Precis, and the rough draft is going to be due April 16th. That's a Wednesday. Responses are going to be due by April 18th. That's a Friday. So you have a few days to respond to your peer review group. And the final draft is going to be due on April 19th. What's unique about the Rhetorical Precis is that it's pretty short. It's only 200 to 300 words long. It's worth 75 points, and it's only about one source you find. So you only need to find one source online. And our focus for weeks 1 and 2 is going to be thinking about what you might want to research, but then in week 2, how to find that research. So what are some tips for locating credible sources and evaluating them on how well they're going to work for your research. So you only need to find one source for this one. And I'm just going to read through a little bit of this, but I have the prompt uploaded on Canvas, so please look through that too and let me know if you have any questions about it. But essentially, your first writing assignment is a précis, and you are going to explain a complicated text in 4 sentences. So that's pretty short. 200 to 300 words, though, is a lot for 4 sentences. But you can't go over 4 sentences for this one, and the reason for that is because I want you to practice complex sentences, editing run-ons, and being concise while also giving us enough details about what this source is about. So the goal is to demonstrate a clear understanding of the text's general topic, but also nuanced points that make it unique, and you're going to write 4 sentences according to this structure. First, before the sentences, give us a full APA citation of your source above the writing. The APA overview is going to be in week 2. And then here are your sentences. So sentence 1, give us the following. Who wrote it? What's the author's name? What are their credentials? What genre is the text? What's the title? Give us the date in parentheses. And then you're going to use a rhetorically accurate verb. So what I mean there is just some sort of specific language to tell us what is the major claim that this text is making. So what's their thesis? So did they claim something? Do they argue something? Do they assert something? It'll be up to you to decide what is this text all about. In your second sentence, explain how they developed that thesis. So what sort of research are they conducting? Are they gathering their own data? Are they doing their own interviews or surveys, and so on? In your third sentence, what's their purpose? Followed by an in order phrase. So here is their purpose in order to make the audience go do what? So elaborate on what is that purpose. And the final sentence is who is it for? So who would read this sort of article and who are they intending to reach with this research? Explain that a little bit. But essentially the purpose here is we want to understand the central argument of a complex text. You have to explain that argument concisely and precisely without your own evaluation or response. So I don't want to know your opinion necessarily on how much you liked or enjoyed the article. It's more about what is it about at its core. And then you're citing it. We're practicing APA for the first time. If this is your first time using APA, don't worry. We're going to talk more about that in week 2. But this is practice for that. So this is our first writing project. And if you scroll down to page 2, there are 2 samples. We are going to look more at these later. But here are the 2 sample précis that you're welcome to read, just to get a good example of what a précis can look like. And you'll notice this one's 207 words. This one was 203. They're on the shorter end of that frame that I wanted, 200 to 300 words. They're great ones. So they're still really good examples of what a précis is. And that's our first writing project. So the prompt is on Canvas. Please read through this on your own also. Let me know if you have questions. I'm going to end the week 1 walkthrough video here, but as I mentioned, feel free to reach out to me if you think of anything that you'd like to ask. And good luck as you start to brainstorm what sort of topics you might want to look into. As you do that, I guess I'll leave you with one more thing. Just make sure, we'll do more of a topic approval formally, but as you're thinking about what you want to research in this class, think about what problems exist in the world and how might we be able to solve them if it's not solved yet. Anyway, all right, let me know if you have any questions, and good luck on your week 1 homework assignments. More details about those are under module 1. Thanks.